Hello, welcome everyone. I'm Noam Weissman. I'm the Executive Vice President at OpenDor Media at Unpacked for Educators, and I am not part of Gen Z. But here with me today is Nadav, raise your hand, or Dan and Masha, and they are part of Gen Z. My name is Noam. Like I said, I'm a millennial, and just from hearing Chaviv and Michael's earlier presentation, I'm Noam. I'm not part of the party Noam. It's just important clarification, just to make a distinction there. Okay, friends, we have a lot to talk about. So we have Nadav and Or, who are part of the Shin Shinim, and we have Dan and Masha, who are part of Club Z. And I want to, okay, clap it up. Yeah, sure, clap it up. This is the generation. This is who we're trying to influence, and this is the generation that's making an influence on many other people. So I'm going to start with a very hard, but I think important question that's at the heart of Z3. And the question I want to ask is, Masha, you're from Moscow. Dan, you're from Sunnyvale. Or, you're from Gilboa. Nadav, you're from Beersheba. You're all at this conference together right now. You're all at Z3. I just flew in from Miami, and I'm here. What is the thing that connects each and every one of you? What is the chibur? What is the connection from a Jew in Gilboa, and Beersheba, in Sunnyvale, and Moscow that connects you? So maybe I'll just go down the line. Masha.
I think one of the most important things that connects us is our shared identity and our shared history and our memory. I think, at least for me, when I think of my own identity, the first thing I think of is Jewish, and the people that come with that. I think kind of Judaism and being Jewish entails a very social connection and a very personal connection, whether that's with community or any other Jew, wherever they are in the world.
Beautiful, beautiful. Dan, what do you think?
So I would say that while we are from different locations regionally right now, if you trace back our heritage far enough, we're all from the same place. And I think that that's what's beautiful about being a Jew, is we descend from the area that was once Judea. And we are an ethnicity just as much as we are a religion. So I think what connects us beyond even our shared values and our shared beliefs is our blood itself. I think we're connected at our core.
Or?
I think what connects all of us and the fact that we're here is because we all have the realization that we should stick up with each other and that we should stand up for one another. And this is also what enabled me and Nadav to come here from Israel and to represent Israel and to kind of like emphasize the mutuality between Israel and diaspora Jewry. And I think this is what connects us because it's so important for all of us. It's important enough for us to be here. And I think this is kind of like shows us how important this chibur is.
Incredible.
I think I couldn't agree more with the three of you. I mean, our shared history and values, I mean, we're all Jews, we're all raised on about the same values, about the same traditions, and I just feel that it binds us together even though we are not fully aware of like the connection we have. It always feels to me that it's way stronger that we can realize.
That's beautiful.
Thank you.
So for me, my day job is I get to make content. I make films, videos, podcasts, articles for Unpacked. We reach millions of people, and I love this concept of shrinking the Jewish world, of making sure that every single Jew, every single person has a right to Jewish education, has a right to Israel education. And that's what you guys are doing all the time. You guys are making sure that others have that right to a Jewish education and that right to an Israel education. For the Shin Shinim here, and Nadav, I'll start with you. I want to ask you, you're from Israel, you're from Beersheba. What have you learned from working with Jewish Americans that you plan perhaps to bring back to Medinat Yisrael?
So, as Or said, we came here from Israel. We just landed like in the last August, so we're not here for a lot of time. But in the time being here, I feel that I've come to know how hard it is to be a Jew. outside of the state of Israel. I mean, it's something that I think of a lot of the speakers here said it, and I'll say it again because I truly believe in it. Israelis don't always realize and don't always think about how hard could it be to be a Jew outside of the state of Israel. You all know that in Israel it's so easy, like everybody like around you are Jewish, you all celebrate the Chagim, the holidays, like you have that feeling of not being special, not being outlined. And here I find that people need to work for it. Like they need to work in order to have that Jewish identity that they want, in order to have that Jewish life that they want. And it feels like a full-time job. I mean, if you want to actually feel Jewish, you need to work for it. You need to initiate and to do that. And I think that here I've learned how to appreciate it way more than I could appreciate it back in Israel. Because, again, you don't really see that as an Israeli unless you get like that exposure to diaspora Jewry. And I hope that when I come back to Israel, I can bring that realization with me, and maybe to talk about it, maybe to bring that understanding of the big Jewish world that we don't always see, and perhaps change someone's opinion. I mean, perhaps change someone like me that is going to come and is going to be exposed for it, to change it way earlier in their lives.
I think I actually really agree with Nadav, and I think what I realized here and what I kind of got that is absolutely admirable is how committed the Jews here are to their Jewish identity and to living a Jewish life and being a part of a Jewish community that represents their Jewish identity. I think it can't be taken for granted, and I would love to bring it to Israel because also, like Nadav said, sometimes it's hard to feel like you really appreciate your Jewish identity and feel like you need to do something to be Jewish. Also, of course, it's different because in Israel, part of the benefits of living in a place that it's not very easy to live in is that you don't have to worry too much. But sometimes I can say that it can lead to indifference, and that's not what we want. And it's kind of something that I can't wait to bring to Israel and tell them how committed the diaspora Jewry are and how important it is for us to learn from them.
So what I hear you both saying, yes, let's clap it up. What I hear you both saying is like when you're in Israel, sometimes you're swimming in the water and you don't even realize that you're in water because you're in it at all times. You're a fish in water, and you have no idea that that's what you're experiencing. The other thing I heard, and my Yiddish is terrible, so I'm still going to go for it. Schwer zu sein Yid. Is that right? And Uber's a good design Yid. Okay, maybe I didn't get that so perfectly. But my wife's grandfather is probably not happy right now. But it's hard to be a Jew, but it's good to be a Jew. And when you toil and you work hard, and then you could feel it and you could appreciate that, and you want to bring that back. That's what you see from Americans, and you want to bring that back to Israel. So let me switch it to Dan and to Masha, and ask you, what do you learn from Israelis that you want to assimilate into your own life? When you see Israelis, when you go to Israel, what do you want to bring into the American Jewish experience? Let's start with Dan.
So I would say that one thing that is uniquely Israeli and that I admire about Israelis is that they are a type of Jew that we have not seen for thousands of years, which is the proud, sometimes too proud, arrogant Jew, which I think the diaspora is sorely lacking. Because in the diaspora, we have Jews that have a history of trauma and persecution and essentially nowhere to vent it to. They still live in that society that persecuted them and traumatized them. In Israel, we have a unique phenomenon that we are surrounded by our own people. We go outside and we are not worried about what our neighbor thinks about us for being a Jew. It doesn't even cross our mind. So our Judaism is no longer a burden, but a benefit that we can explore in many different ways. And I think that that sort of confidence is what I see in Israelis pretty much across the board. I think it's what makes them so innovative. They're not afraid to take that first step. I definitely see it in the Shinim here, that without like English, not their first language, they come up here in front of a bunch of people and kill it. I think that's super cool. I think that, yeah. So I think that in all, I admire about Israeli Jews how unashamed, and not even like unashamed, but positively proud they are of being a Jew.
It's the chutzpah. It's a little bit of a chutzpah. It's a little bit of a confidence. It's that sort of thing. That's
Absolutely.
And you think American Jewry could use a little bit more of it?
Could use a lot more of it, if you ask me.
Masha. I mean, I would have to agree with that because I think the American Jewry or diaspora Jewry in general, because we don't live in a society where we know we're going to be accepted as Jews automatically, it's not a given. We force ourselves into this mold of like how others want us to be Jewish, and I think we need that confidence. We need to be able to like put our foot down and say like, this is how I am Jewish. Like I define it, you don't define it. And it's being able to be proud of your heritage and be able to be proud of your family and history instead of molding and shaping and contorting yourself to be somebody else who has no connection to Judaism forces you to be. And we need that, like that's what the Israeli Jew has that we don't.
Wow. I'm gonna push you on that for a second, okay? Is that okay?
Yes.
So where are you seeing that lack of pride amongst American Jewry, or the contortion that we need to be someone else? In the previous session that I just had, I spoke about Jabotinsky, who talked about that we need to have a geza psychologi chadash al Yehudi, a new racial breed, and that's what the new Zionists would be. Is that you're seeing a contortion of identity in American Jewry such that we're not comfortable and confident being ourselves? By the way, these are 18-year-olds, by the way, right?
17.
17-year-olds. So this is the conversation we're having right now. So Masha, yeah.
I think a lot of the discussion in a diaspora Jewry, which kind of divides the Jewish community, is which battles do we choose to fight, like anti-Semitism on campus, and what battles do we don't fight, you know? And I think we're scared to anger other people. Like, we're scared to, for example, this is going back to World War II during the Holocaust, how the Jewish community was divided whether to intervene into the Holocaust. And there was Jewish rabbis who stated, we don't want to anger the government. Why would they want to fight our battles for us? And those people lacked that unapologetic proudness that Jews should have and that Jews in Israel do have, of being like, we need to protect ourselves, we need to stand up for ourselves, and it shouldn't matter like what others think of us.
Courage, a certain courage.
Yeah, a certain courage.
Or, question for you. Dan just said you guys are chutzpahdik, and you got it in a good way. He said it, and you have confidence, and that you're able to come on the stage in front of hundreds of people, and hundreds of important people, by the way, and you're doing such an amazing job. How do you bring, let's start with you first, or then Nadav. How do you bring your identity? What do you do to bring your identity to your American counterparts, to your American friends, to your American family, who's here with us right now, I believe, right? How do you bring your identity to them?
I think it's an interesting question. I think one of the most meaningful things that I got to do is I got on this Yom Kippur, which is my favorite day of the year. Like, I have a countdown to Yom Kippur, like, all year long. And I think what I got to do this year that was really meaningful to me is to spend all of Yom Kippur, all 25 hours in the temple that I'm working for, and I got to share my story about and my perspective about Yom Kippur in all kinds of ways. So, for example, I think all Israelis who kind of get me, I got to share with them and tell them about, you know, how magical it is to look at the highway and see that it's empty and it's full of kids riding their bikes. And I talked about unity and about my moshav and how we have a tiny synagogue that no one ever goes to, but in Yom Kippur it's crowded and people are standing outside trying to like listen, or just, you know, coming there because they know that it's a big gathering and they want to talk to people and they want to hear. And, you know, I think this is something that's really special for me to share, because I think it kind of represents Israel in a way to me, to show them how united we are and how much we care for each other and how much, because in my moshav that is very secular, people are not all the people that are coming to the synagogue are fasting, but they're coming to support other people, and they're coming to hear, and they're coming to, talk to other people who don't have their phones, and, they're not driving to the synagogue, and they're not coming with food or anything. They're just there to show solidarity and support. And I think this is something that was very meaningful to me to share. I got to talk about it in all kinds of platforms, and it was something that I want all Americans to know about, about us, about Israel, to know that we're, this united and we care about each other this much, and it's probably as much as we care about them, about the diaspora Jewry, which I also talked about. I think this is something that was really meaningful to me, and it's kind of like how I brought my own story.
And how are they responding to it?
Well, I got to share in all kinds of platforms. So I think the youth was like, it doesn't sound very fun to me. Why would they come to the synagogue if they're not fasting? But I think for the adults, it was really meaningful. And they came to me and they told me about this one time that they spent Yom Kippur in Israel, and told me what they saw and told me what they experienced, and kind of like made me feel like what I said was absolutely true, and they feel it even though they don't experience it right now, because the Yom Kippur experience here is very different. And they said that they feel it, and they still think about it, and this is one of the things that make them fall in love with Israel.
Wow, beautiful, thank you. Nadav, how about you?
So I'll also share an example. When we are working, I'm working at a Jewish day school. So when we are working,
Which Jewish day school?
Warnick in Foster City.
Shout out to Warren.
So what? So we are always trying to make our activities, the things that we talk about, the things that we work with the kids, to make it personal, to make it about ourselves, to share our perspective. We genuinely believe that if we'll create that that personal connection, and we'll base the connection on our personal stories and personal point of view, that will make the kids understand it more than if we talk this way in front of a lot of people. We work on these small conversations. So recently I had an activity with middle schoolers about the elections in Israel. So instead of just showing them the parties and talking about how they don't agree and the whole thing, me and my partner was also working with me. We shared our experience in those recent elections, because it was our first time and we weren't home. We were voting here in the consulate. So we were just sharing how hard it was, how difficult it was for us to make up our mind around who we want to vote for, even though we're not physically right now in Israel. And we try to simulate this situation for them when and again, they're middle schoolers, they're pretty young, but they also have opinions. They were also doubting which party represents me in the best way. So when we did this activity, we let them express their opinions. We created a room for them to share and to kind of feel the way we are feeling in that situation. So, and I feel that those small connections, those small moments when they feel just like any other Israeli kid, that brings us way closer to Israel.
Beautiful. We spent 20 minutes or so, and we haven't really spoken about something that's plaguing the American community, which is anti-Semitism. I was just in LA for a week on tour with one of our new films called Unsafe Spaces that chronicles the challenges young Jews face on campus. And I went to a middle school. I went to middle schools and high schools across LA. And I went to a middle school 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. And I asked the question from these students, raise your hand if you experienced anti-Semitism ever in your life. I thought it was going to be a couple hands. Almost everyone raised their hand, and I was naively blown away. I just didn't see that coming. Masha, you are a proud member of Club Z. How do you? Why is it that you find the fight against anti-Zionism as an expression of anti-Semitism. Why is that something that you're so passionate about? Why is it so important for you to fight?
As much as I would like for it to not be a passion of mine, I would love to sit down and not have to combat anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism on college campuses, on high schools, on social media. It's a fight that I chose because I want, and this is kind of like, I'm 17, like, why am I speaking about kids? But I want the future generations and the possible kids that I would have to be able to have that pride that Israeli Jews have in the diaspora, which we aren't able to have because of the anti-Zionism that's just like literally flying around everywhere. I think it's so, right now, and especially like in Gen Z, everything is centered around social media and what's mainstream, and that mainstream, like everybody wants to be in that. And supporting the state of Israel is not in that. It's not in the mainstream, and it's saddening because I want to be able to, go out into the world and say that I'm a proud Jew and that I have family in Israel and that I have friends in Israel, and not be like scorned and looked weird. And it's just, I wish I didn't have to do this fight. Like, I wish I could just sit back and enjoy my life and live my life as a proud Jew, but I have to do it because there's nobody else is doing it.
You're a reluctant activist.
Yes.
That's what you are. Right. I hear that. Dan, what do you say? What do you want to add to that?
So I want to say that in regards to anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism, at the risk of sounding really, really cliche, I don't think I chose that fight. I think that fight chose me, just because that fight, in essence, is against me for who I am. It's not against me because of a belief that I hold that I can choose to disconnect from. It's a fight against me, the core of who I am. And that's not something that you can distance yourself from. That's not something that you can run away from. Even though you can definitely try, and many people do, it's never going to happen. Like, the hatred at its core is always going to be anti-Semitism. And I think that, like Masha was talking about reluctant activism, I would say that someone who sees this unfolding and sees it unfolding in college campuses and everywhere, high school campuses now, I saw it in my high school campus, I can't sit there and take it lying down, essentially. Like, I can't sit there and just see all of this hatred flowing against me and my people, which is critical. That's part of my identity. And just be like, and just overlook it and just think like, we made cherry tomatoes. That's cool. Like a lot of people try and highlight those innovations, which I think is so important. But I think when it comes to actually combating anti-Semitism in the generation of today, we need more Jews like Israeli Jews, proud of who they are, because that's how you fight ignorance, is with pride. And if you go into those college campuses and you see people protesting, saying things like Israel's an apartheid state, when half of them don't know what apartheid means and probably couldn't define it for you, And it takes a lot less than you would think. It takes maybe 10, maybe 20 really active, really educated, and really courageous students to put an end to a culture like that. As daunting as it seems, you need people that understand that this is the right thing to do. Revolutionaries, essentially. Revolutionaries to be able to push back against this sort of hatred and be proud of who they really are.
So there you have it. Matan Kahana was our keynote speaker, but in my mind, hearing from Gen Z and hearing what everything you guys have to say about the state of affairs in your Judaism, in your Zionism, and your experience as a Jew has been quite eye-opening for me. And thank you so much for sharing the days with me.